Oh,
Holy shit! Who the fuck was that?
oh shit. I'm assuming no content restrictions. This is adult.
Oh yeah, we
Yeah.
we 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 we, we say fuck a lot.
I was gonna say I listened to some of the other episodes, so I was just making sure because sometimes they don't show the like, wait, you can't say that. I'm like, fuck, I did not know that.
No,
Sorry.
this is adults only, so say whatever you want.
Yeah, slash my kids listening when my wife's driving in the car and trying to be up a supportive spouse.
Yeah, his kids have heard a lot of bad stuff already, so
Yeah.
you're not going to shock them.
My dad's girlfriend was asking like, oh, do you let your kids watch the movies? And I'm like, no. The only movie on the entire list that I think she's seen is the second half of Gremlins, and we made sure she didn't like get the whole speech about the dad getting stuck in the chimney dressed as Santa Claus.
Oh, there's no place like home for the holidays, and no matter how far away you roam, if you pine for the sunshine of a friendly gaze, for the holidays you can.
Welcome back to Horror for the Holidays, a Christmas horror movie podcast. I'm Jay Logsden.
I'm Jeff Searcy.
And
I'm Mike Lombardo.
we did it!
The first guest.
Oh man.
The good old boy himself.
Oh, what a time to be alive.
I'm honored.
Yeah. Well, we are so excited to have you here, Mike.
I'm excited to be here. Don't worry, I'll be gentle.
All right. Oh, good. It's my first time. So how's everyone doing? Everyone doing good? Jeff?
Oh yeah, great as usual.
Yeah. how's the old shithole treating you? I mean, I'm sorry. How's work treating you? Not your butt.
We're supposed to close October 31st, so that's good.
Oh, spooky. Extra spooky. So, Mike, how have you been?
No, I'm doing all right. I had to brave 2 accidents, some road construction, and it was kind of like Mad Max Fury Road out there. But I think there was more plot. But here we are.
Oh, but that was a fun movie, wasn't it? I mean, but let's not talk about that movie. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about an even better movie. Let's talk about 1980s. I just about said deck the halls. No, that's what we do. We deck the halls. We talk about 1980s Christmas Evil when we deck the halls.
You better watch out.
Yeah. Also, you better watch out. Also titled Santa at one point.
Terror in Toyland.
Also titled Terror in Toyland.
My holy grail is a VHS copy of Terror in Toyland.
Oh, very cool.
One day I will foolishly spend that amount of money to get it. But until
I mean, don't tell my wife. She listens and she already knows. I spent like $100 some on a novelization of Black Christmas the other day. And I think it's a reprint. I don't even think it's the original. I'm just like, I need a novelization of Black Christmas.
Well, the Silent Night Deadly Night novelization is coming out soon.
I pre-ordered that. So excited. Budget of $850,000, which ballooned twice because it was originally supposed to be $450,000. $200,000. I'll get to this later. $200,000 were added due to the lighting budget.
Well, you know.
And another $200,000 were added because some coked out lady deleted the entire like music track of the movie, and they had to rebuy all the rights to the music or whatever.
See why this took a while to come out.
In fact, I mean, speaking of that, took 10 years to get made because the script was finished writing in 1970.
Well, from what I heard on the Joe Bob rundown of the movie, the director was busy doing porn at the time. So.
Yeah, I think this is his only like normal feature film, actually, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, the only other thing I found, besides the stuff that Joe Bob mentioned on that episode a couple of years ago, was there is a movie called The Transformation, A Sandwich of Nightmares, and I mean that does sound delicious. But yeah, written and directed by Lewis Jackson. I think Joe Bob referred to him as a one-hit wonder, which I think kind of seems apt.
Yeah,
made one excellent movie and then disappeared.
Well, it's something the whole thing like storyboarded from scratch for like years. Like this was like his fucking dream to do this movie.
Mm-hmm.
And when he lost the rights and then bought them back and started doing his own screenings. Like, it's a crazy story.
No, it's truly wild. Yeah. Like, 30 years in like basically like obscurity, I think is like roughly kind of what I saw.
Well, yeah, because Trauma released it and they mismarketed the shit out of it. It's like, what kills me is I only saw this movie for the first time maybe 8 years ago, because I had seen it all the time at the video store, and I love Christmas horror movies, but I was like, this is just gonna be another fucking Silent Night, Deadly Night knockoff. Like, because the cover was so stupid and the title, I just never bothered. And I
Right.
saw all these like bargain DVDs, and I'm like, nah. And then I was reading the John Waters book. I think it was Shock Value, and he mentioned it was like his favorite Christmas movie, and I'm like, John Waters liked that movie, huh? So then I bought it, I blind bought it, and I was like, oh my god! I've watched it like 3 times in a row. I was like, this is brilliant, and now I'm obsessed with it.
No, it was one of those where like, yeah, like you said, like they just completely mismarketed it. Like, people expected it to be a slasher movie, and it just wasn't. Like, and it's just it's basically like a man's descent into madness as he becomes Santa Claus.
It's what I tell people when I recommend it. I say it's Taxi Driver with Santa Claus.
That's a great description. Yeah. Man, Mike, your friends are so good at you and your friends are so good at describing stuff. That guy who said Christmas Bloody Christmas is Mallrats meets Terminator and Shopping Mall. Like,
yeah, and then I watched it. I'm like, yep, 100%. That's exactly.
Yeah. Brandon Maggart plays our main character, Harry Standling. I would say this is probably his most famous role, but he was also in 30 episodes of Sesame Street. So maybe Sesame Street is his most famous thing.
I think he's probably most famous for being Fiona Apple's dad.
Oh, that's right. He is Fiona Apple's dad. Jeffrey DeMunn is Harry's brother Philly, I think at one point he gets called. Some of the movies he's been in are The Mist, The Green Mile, and most importantly, my favorite Stephen King adaptation, Storm of the Century.
He was also in The Blob.
He was in the remake of The Blob.
And he was in the Walking Dead TV show.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, that's right, he was.
I did not watch the Walking Dead TV show.
I mean, you weren't missing much, but the first season's great he was Dale. And it just blew my mind when my roommate, actually, I was watching Christmas Evil, and he's like, is that Dale from Walking Dead? And I was like looking at it, like kind of tilting my head like a confused dog. And I was like, how the fuck did you recognize him? He's like 35 years younger. And I was like, oh my God, it is him.
One other famous person I found is that Moss Garcia's mom is Patricia Richardson, aka Jill Taylor on Home Improvement.
That blew my mind too when I watched it for the first time. I was like, I was like, that can't be. And I looked it up and I was like, wow, okay.
Which makes the idea that this is kind of like a weird take on the Santa Claus. Like, it adds another layer to that.
Well, what's interesting is if you really turn the audio up in the movie, when she like starts beating the shit out of Moss when he sees Harry in the bushes, Harry actually says, he goes, like I actually think it's a prequel.
Then like Al walks by, he's like, not now, Tim.
Yeah, it was.
You would ruin my one night out, you little bastard.
Not all of the actors in the movie went on to have huge careers, but I saw a lot of them were in like episodes of Outer Limits, Tales from the Crypt, Chud, all the good stuff.
That's what fucking matters. Anyone who's in Chud is aces in my book.
No one was in Chud 2, Bud the Chud.
I don't know what movie you're referring to. I don't think I'm familiar with that one.
As you mentioned earlier, Mike, John Waters' favorite Christmas movie. This something Jeff picked up on. This was one of the video nasties over in the UK.
Yep. Another brilliant thing from the Blighted Eye.
It's hilarious too. There's nothing really that objectionable in the movie, like really.
Especially when the other two movies we could like cover on this podcast based off of our oeuvre are Night Train Murders and Deep Red, and I would argue both of those movies are much worse than Christmas Evil.
Absolutely.
And then the other two that kind of come close, they weren't considered video nasties, but they were like restricted, were Silent Night, Deadly Night, and Maniac.
Yeah.
And even Maniac is where Christmas Evil and Silent Night, Deadly Night do not belong on a list with Maniac, Deep Red, and Night Train Murders.
No.
One other thing I found interesting, the toy factory used in the movie was a real toy factory in New Jersey, the Pressman Toy Company. And Mike is the closest person to us to lives in New Jersey by living in Pennsylvania. How accurate is this to a real New Jersey Christmas?
I mean, I've never had Christmas in New Jersey, but I've heard the stories. Um, I think actually the body count in the movie is probably less than a traditional Jersey Christmas, if I'm not mistaken.
That's probably right.
But it definitely looks like New Jersey in the movie. I do plan. I'll take a pilgrimage. I can't even fucking talk. I'm gonna go to the factory and see what it looks like now.
Very cool. Yeah, you'll have to take a bunch of
Pilgrimage.
pictures.
That's the word.
My wife and I had to stop and buy tires in New Jersey on our way back from New York, and I could say that it definitely looked like it does in the movie.
A real New Jersey tire shop. We Jeff and I watched the Vinegar Syndrome release of this. It's currently streaming on Shudder, like Joe Bob. Also I think Tubi.
Yeah, Tubi.
Other places. How'd you watch it, Mike?
I bought I believe it was Synapse DVD back in the day. Well, I actually owned the Trauma DVD.
Okay.
Never watched it, and then I bought the Synapse one because I was like, well, it's going to look better when I first saw it, and then I immediately picked up the Blu-ray when it was released from Vinegar Syndrome. So that is the current version that I have.
And then you kind of mentioned like your kind of like introduction to the movie. The first time I saw this was like, I think it's on YouTube like in entirety, but it's pretty badly digitized.
Yeah, it looks like somebody shit on a VHS, put it through a corn thresher, and then uploaded it.
Hey, that's the description of our version of Silent Night, Bloody Night that we tried to watch.
Yeah, that's another one that looks like it's almost unwatchably bad quality.
Oh yeah.
But the like the only scenes like I could like truly make out what were happening were like that final scene, like the lighted Christmas neighborhood. And like I was like, that looks so cool. Too bad I've had so much trouble telling what's gone on in the rest of this movie. Do you have any previous experience with the movie, Jeff?
Nope. My first time was last week.
Oh, all right.
Drove me insane.
Does anyone have anything else before we dive into the synopsis? No? Okay. So we start off with a title card that says, or a subtitle, I don't know what you call it. It says Christmas Eve, 1947. Sets the time and place. We get a voiceover reading The Night Before Christmas. And Harry, his brother Phil, and his mom are sitting on the stairs watching Santa deliver presents. And then it cuts to like Harry's brother being like, that wasn't Santa, that was Dad. And then Harry's like, no, it wasn't, Phil. Stop being a dick or something. I don't know. And then Harry goes outside and he saw mommy kissing Santa Claus, if you know what I mean.
Kissing her on the lips, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, exactly.
Never specified which set.
You know, on the last episode we talked about people needing their cram pussy ate, and Harry's mom certainly qualifies for that.
But we just got to stop here and make a note. Why is the Santa so thin?
I don't know. There were a lot of thin Santas in this movie.
In Santa slashers in general. I want like a Roseanne era John Goodman to go on a mass murder spree as Santa.
I think Goldberg's probably our thickest Santa.
Yeah, that's probably accurate.
Then we get our title card.
The Christmas Horror Story, I believe that's Santa. During the Krampus fight, he's a pretty big guy, isn't he?
Yeah, George Buse is pretty big.
He's
guy.
a respectable one.
He's a respectable girth.
Yeah.
We get our title card. It says you better watch out because I don't know if any of the title cards actually say Christmas Evil. And then it says the present. So we've jumped forward in time to 1980, and Harry wakes up in the coolest set of pajamas I've ever seen, where he wears a red Santa pajamas with a red Santa nightcap. And he does a bunch of calisthenics in his Santa themed house.
He's very Joaquin Phoenix's Joker, the way he's dancing around his apartment.
And that alarm clock.
I just said that because I actually do think that they took a lot from this movie. Like legitimately, the performances are very similar.
I never even thought of that. No, that's brilliant.
Yeah, that's what I said when we were watching. It's like, so is this what Joaquin Phoenix watched to get ready for that, or what?
And so yeah, we kind of watch like Harry get on with his day, and then we see him standing on a rooftop spying on kids.
Like you do.
And so we see him watching Scotty Goodrich, who's a good boy, as he's taking out the trash, and Susie Lovett, who's a sweet baby, as she's playing with a doll. And then we see the goat, Moss Garcia, as he's cutting out pictures from a Penthouse magazine.
He has improper, what does it say, improper hygiene or something?
Like impure thoughts and improper hygiene.
Yep.
As Harry like runs away muttering like Moss Garcia, Moss Garcia, as he like runs down the stairs.
Man,
And then
if I had to write down every time I had impure thoughts, I'd never get anything done.
Might be a book about as thick as the one that he has.
and we see yeah, he pulls out two books, like the good boy and girl list and the bad boy and girl list. And he writes like, you know, the good kids go in the good book, and then like Moss Garcia has impure thoughts and bad personal hygiene. And then goes to the Jolly Dream Toy Factory. I kept wanting to call it Jolly Time because I was thinking of Jolly Time popcorn. Harry tries to really rally the troops. You know, you've never made a good toy before. You know, you don't know the satisfaction of putting a good toy together. And everyone's like, Harry, you left the union. Shut the fuck up. Yeah, we learned that Harry got promoted. He's no longer floor manager and no longer in the union.
It's not on the line, so fuck him.
You know, and then this guy Frank
toys.
Yeah, but is like this guy named Frank is like, oh, how about you work for me, Harry? I need to go on vacation tonight. And so Harry like winds up like working for Frank that night just to walk by the bar, and Frank's like, yeah, I conned that loser Harry into working for me.
He's a schmuck.
And then we get you know this first scene where we you know, I think we all kind of think something's not right with Harry, but then like,
what do you mean? He seems like a perfectly well-adjusted guy to me.
And then he like runs away and like aggressively hums Santa Claus is coming to town as he like strangles a doll that like I assume he thinks is like Frank. He then goes to his family childhood home and spies on his brother fucking.
Yeah, like you do.
Yeah. And has flashbacks to when Santa Claus was eating out his mom. The next day, it's the next day, the Thanksgiving Day parade. Phil's wife Jackie tries to convince Phil to like not be such a dick to Harry, and then Harry promptly calls him like, "Yeah, I'm not gonna make it." As like I assume he's jacking off to Santa Claus.
I mean, obviously, what else could he be doing?
Because yeah, he cancels going to Thanksgiving, and then we get a montage of Harry trying on his Santa outfit / painting his van, interspersed with like scenes of like the city getting ready for Christmas. I thought those were some really neat shots. Harry then sees like the neighborhood kids, and they tell him like what they wish for, and then we get Moss Garcia saying the greatest thing ever, that he wants a lifetime subscription to Penthouse. And then we get some cool scenes of like Harry kind of like looking at like Santa like punishing kids, like more of like a vengeful Santa than like the Coca-Cola Santa.
Before Coke softened Santa.
And one of the images looked very much like a Krampus shirt I have, where like Krampus is stuffing like kids in sacks. I wondered if it was like the exact same image, just with like Santa like superimposed over it or something.
Looked like it.
That night at Moss Garcia's house, we were introduced to his mom, Jill Taylor. And Mike, do you want to explain what happens in this scene, because it's really weird?
Is that would be the scene where Harry he earlier in the movie is digging, just it's not like he's digging a grave, but he's actually just filling bags with dirt. And then he goes to Moss Garcia's house and he makes mud, basically covers his face in it, and then presses his hands and his face against the wall of the outside of the house and leaves like a face print and a handprint, which I looked up. That is actually apparently like an old, I want to say German, like Santa tradition. Like that is how you like mark a house of a kid who has been naughty. So when the kid comes out, it's like, you know, in America, it's like, oh, you put coal in their stocking, or whatever. It's a variation of that. But he's covered, because I was very like, what the hell is he doing?
Right, same here. I was like, I don't know what this is.
So it's crazy because like there's so much like deep cut like Santa, the mythology knowledge in this movie. Like they like Santa stuffing the kids in the sack and all that stuff. Like, you know, like Père Fouettard is the French bad Santa, Santa's shadow, and like there's all sorts of crap like that. But anyway, so he makes a handprint and a face print on the outside of Moss Garcia's house. Jill Taylor is trying to leave to go to like a party, and Moss sees, is it Moss or Ross? I can never quite.
I think it's Moss.
Yeah.
Moss. Okay. So Moss hears something in the bushes, and it's Harry hiding in the bushes. It was actually a really terrifying scene if you think about it. This is like a grown-ass man
Yeah.
like, stalking a 9-year-old child.
With shit smeared all over his face.
Yeah, covered all over his face. So Moss gets close and closer to this bush, and then Harry just like shoves his fist out, like he like punches the air in front of Moss's face, and then Moss runs off screaming to his mom since there's someone in there, and then she just proceeds to beat the shit out of him, the kid, and being like, "You ruined my night out, like you little bastard." And then you realize that probably Moss's home life is not great, and that might have something to do with why he's such a little shit.
Yep.
But then she throws him into the back of the car and then drives off because she doesn't believe him that there is a Fiona Apple's dad is hiding in the bushes.
So then we get more scenes of Harry making toys, more montage moments of that. And then we cut back to the Jolly Dream Toy Factory Christmas party.
Oh boy.
Where we start getting, I think, like kind of Harry's big kind of descent. Like he tells Ben that he and Frank will get theirs and that they're not playing the right tune or something like that. Argues with the executives about their upcoming toy drive and how they're not going to have enough toys for the kids at the children's hospital.
It's one of my favorite lines of the entire thing when he's like, "It took me years, but now I think I know how to finally play the right tune." And the guy's like, "What the fuck are you talking about?"
Right? Like,
He's like, "You see, you know the tune, you just don't know how to dance to it." I'm like, is this really like the portrayal of insanity in this movie is so good because it is like it's very much like you can see the gears turning in his head. Like he's very unhinged in his performance. It's very realistic.
and then Harry goes out to the floor and starts like stealing a bunch of toys off the assembly line and filling toy bags with them. And then I think that's also when we get the thing where like he's filling like the sacks with like dirt and stuff. Harry then we get like there's a handful of scenes that I would consider like very like famous scenes in this movie, and one of them is Harry with the beard glued to his face, like pulling on it and stuff. We get this scene where he's like glued this beard and he's pulling on it, and then like and it looks in the mirror and he's like, "It's me." Like it's me. Like he's so excited that like he's got this big bushy white beard on his face. Then cuts to Christmas Eve. It took me a while to realize whose house it was. It turns out it's Phil's house. I just thought he'd broken into a random person's house and left a bunch of toys. But we another very like I think iconic image at Phil's house. Like Harry's like unloading toys and he pulls out like a kitchen knife and he's like standing in the light of the Christmas tree and he like you're kind of not sure what he's gonna do and he like just like basically unties like the what are tied together on the presents.
That's the ribbon.
Yep. Yeah. And then he, we and this is with the moment like I think I went like, was that Phil's house? And then like later on, like like because I was like, oh, those kids kind of look like Phil's kids. And then later on, I was like, oh, it would explain why like the kids are like opening a bunch of presents on Christmas morning and the parents are kind of confused. Harry then goes to Moss Garcia's house, leaves the big bag of dirt, and then goes to the children's hospital and like the old crotchety doorman
meets the world's most surly old security guard.
Who's like basically like what the fuck do you want? And like Harry's like, well, just go get your boss. I brought toys for the kids. Don't you know how late it is? And then like Harry, so the guy, the doorman kind of walks off, and Harry walks around kind of like muttering to himself like Merry Christmas. And as he does it, like snow starts falling and he gets jollier like as he's saying Merry Christmas to the point where he's like yelling Merry Christmas as like snow's falling. And
I think he thinks that he's making it snow with the magic of Christmas. Yep. One of my favorite scenes. Like I love that. He's just like he's really embracing the role, and then it's like, look what I've done. I made this happen.
Like he keeps thinking he has like all the powers of Santa, and then like every once in a while like something happens that like kind of brings him back down to earth.
Yeah.
The workers at the hospital run out and they grab like all the presents. And, oh, who got these presents? And Harry's like, oh, from people who didn't know how generous they could be, as basically he stole all the presents from the toy factory and gave them to the kids at the children's hospital. We then go to midnight mass where like Harry's CEO at the toy factory and like one of the other guys, like I think they were on like Long Island, maybe is kind of the implication, like because he said we're gonna go to the island.
Yeah.
And so they're like a bunch of people are leaving midnight mass, and like there's like these like waspy like Chet Bottomtooth kind of like, oh look Jeff, it's Santa Claus.
Oh,
and they're kind of hurt hassling Harry, and I think Harry went there clearly to like kill his boss and kill the other CEO, and instead like these guys are giving him so much shit that he like pulls out a toy soldier out of his bag and stabs the dude through the eye with it, and then like while people are freaking out, grabs like a hatchet from out the back of his bag and just starts laying into people's skulls with it.
they've always got some kind of axe. Every single one of them.
I told you, axe kills are Christmassy. Harry then kind of flees the scene as everyone freaks out, and he kind of doesn't know what to do. And he like parks and he hears like some Christmas music playing, and so he kind of goes to like spy in, and there's this Christmas party going on, and they see Santa looking in, so everyone's like really excited, and and they start partying with Harry. They love this. Like there's like this big dance scene where like Harry's dancing like the Jingle Bell polka.
It's such a great like that's actually probably my favorite scene in the whole movie, because it's chugging along. It's like he's starting to kill people, then instead of escalating, he just goes into a Christmas party and like hangs out with kids. It's just fucking weird. It's like, what is happening?
And then he leaves. I was saving it for later for our quotes, but it's almost like worth saying now. Like he leaves and he tells the kids like, you want to be good boys and girls growing up. Like if you're bad boys and girls, your name goes in the bad boys and girls book, and I'll bring you something horrible. And it's just like the way he says it is just, and then instantly switches to like, but like it doesn't say this, but like essentially switches it. He's like, but you'll be good, like ho ho ho, Merry Christmas. But it's just like that just like threat that he lays out underneath is great.
Just pray you never see Santa eat your mom's box.
Harry leaves the party, and he's like, as he's doing it, he's like whipping, like pretending like he's whipping reindeer, and he's like calling all their names as he's driving away because he painted like Santa's sleigh on the side of his van.
I love the white panel van sleigh.
And I have a Christmas ornament, a handmade Christmas ornament from someone of that van hanging on my tree.
That's awesome. Meanwhile, at the police arrive at the church, and they kind of start their investigation of what happened earlier. Later that night at Frank's house, as we kind of spoke about, Harry kind of thinks he is Santa, kind of thinks he's like developing the powers. So he gets a ladder and tries to go into Frank's house through the chimney, but he gets stuck, and he kind of takes him a while to like wedge his way out. And there's like a moment like of terror on his face where like he thinks he's not going to be able to get out, and he's able to kind of squeeze out, and he's kind of defeated, and he's walking along Frank's house to try and find a way in, and he sees these windows. He pulls on like the first one, it doesn't budge, and like pulls on, or like he sees one, doesn't go up to it, like sees another, pulls on it, doesn't budge, and then like the third one he's actually able to open it, and he kind of sneaks in through the house. And like I was afraid he's like woken people up, like he's making a little bit of noise, and lays out all these presents, and like the Frank's kids see like Santa, and he kind of like thinks, oh someone's awake, someone's around, so he's getting a little nervous, but he looks up and they're gone, and he goes down the hall to check on the kids' room, and like, oh, they appear to be asleep, so everything's fine. And he goes into Frank's room and suffocates him with his large sack. Frank then kind of like Frank's wife kind of wakes up, and Frank's able to push Harry off, and Harry grabs the tree from the top of the Christmas tree in Frank's room and slits his throat with it. As like Frank's wife like starts to scream, and like the kids wakes up screaming, and like Harry like it like stops to talk to the kids, like because like she's like gasping for breath, she's so confused, so Harry like stops to talk for the kids, and then she starts screaming, and he just runs out the front door, leaving it wide open as he speeds away in his van. The next morning it's Christmas Day, and Phil kind of knows something is up. Harry's not at his house. Harry's always there for Christmas. Harry loves Christmas. And there's a news report about basically what happened the night before. And I think at this moment, Phil kind of suspects that something's up, but he doesn't want to believe, Harry's not here. There's this killer Santa Claus, but he doesn't truly want to believe that his brother could do this. We then see that like Harry slept in his van outside the toy factory all night, and he sets to work breaking all the machines in the factory and all the toys.
Well, they're inferior quality, so why keep them around?
Yeah, like he turns on all the conveyor belts and like has them running as like the toys hit the floor, like shattering before him. It's a great scene of him like standing up on like this scaffolding,
Yeah.
like looking down, and then like it's like shot kind of straight up at him as like he's watching like the havoc he has essentially wrought on this toy factory. We then get probably, I think, one of the funniest scenes in the whole movie, the Santa police lineup,
Yeah.
Yes, it's a great
where
scene.
where there's like which I thought it was a missed opportunity to not play that song, like which one is the real Santa Claus,
Yeah.
like from like the Flintstones Christmas special, which might have been later than this. So like, but I was like, oh man, that would have been a great opportunity to like just have like a little instrumental of like that song playing, like as they're like rounding up all these Santas. I also thought it was really funny that there was a black Santa, and it's like clearly they would have tried to pin the whole thing on that guy, like these cops. But yeah, they're like, I think one of like the, maybe it was even like Harry's bosses, like, no, it's not any of these guys. Like the Santa I saw had like much darker fur on his costume or something like that. Harry then calls Phil from the CEO of Jolly Dreams like office, and basically like tells Phil that like he doesn't have to worry about him anymore. Like, you know, I finally figured out how to play the tune, Phil. And then we get you know what I've kind of said, I think is like probably like the like to me is like the iconic like moment in the movie. Harry's driving his van and it gets stuck in like a snowbank, and he gets out, and it's the entire street is just lined with like blow mold, like Christmas blow molds. And it's so cool. And I don't know if you guys want to talk about this scene, or like kind of what happens next.
Well, I didn't really get the significance of it the first time I watched it. I couldn't understand why he was freaking out so bad that his van was stuck. But I think it's him like being snapped back to reality, that he's not in a magical sleigh. He's not really Santa Claus, and his world's just kind of collapsing amid this like scene of like ultimate Christmas joy, which makes it even weirder.
So actually, I have the kind of the opposite read. I think that's when his break from reality is fully severed, because he almost is. The van breaks down, it gets stuck, but then because then the townspeople come out and they literally have torches and like pitchforks. So I think that we're firmly in his head at that point, and he sees that street lined with the blow molds because it's like leading him to like the promised land of Christmas. And then he's this monster that they're attacking, but he's misunderstood, like Frankenstein.
Yeah, he's Frankenstein's monster.
Yeah, that's
so I always thought that it was like that, because that's the point in the movie where it becomes like overtly surreal. But I don't think that you're wrong either. I think that like it, from the audience's point of view, I think you're absolutely right. Like it's like, what the fuck? But then he can't handle the reality of it, and he just completely goes off the deep end, because then what happens next is so surreal.
Yeah.
Right. And so like, yeah, but like he goes and like he kind of runs into some kids, and like the kids love him. The kids, you know, it's Santa, and the parents see him and just are horrified.
Yeah.
And like this dad like pulls a knife, and it's on Mike's shirt. The scene of Harry holding like a switchblade that like the daughter stole from her dad.
Yeah.
And then yeah, like you guys said, like he gets chased through the town by guys with pitchforks and torches.
Fire bad.
I love the scene too, where like he rounds the corner and just dives into a pile of trash.
Yeah.
Well, it is New Jersey.
And so Harry like is able to kind of get his van out of the snow, and he flees to Phil's house, and Phil and Harry kind of have a fight that's almost a reversal of that scene at the beginning of the movie, where like Phil's wife is watching, and I think all the kids are there, like watching from the stairs as Santa and their dad have a knockdown drag out fight, like in their living room, in the exact same living room where the opening of the movie took place. And Phil like basically like strangles Harry and like stops him from breathing and knocks him unconscious and drags him to his van. It's like Phil's so horrified by what he's seen, by what's happened. And then like Harry kind of wakes up, and you just see like Harry's fist go out the window and punch Phil right in the face, knocking him down. And Harry like turns on his van and speeds away as like the mob kind of gives chase and like appears, and like Phil kind of chases after him too, as like Harry drives off the road and like steers on into basically into like this fencing. And like, you know, he's plummeting towards a river as like Phil had like rolled down the hill towards it. And then Phil kind of watches this like surreal moment, like Mike, literally said, as like Harry's van is lifted up into the sky, flying by the moon, and you hear like Harry voiceover basically saying like, and I heard him exclaim as he rode out of sight, "Happy Christmas to all, and to all a good night," as like the van flies by the moon.
His
movie,
sleigh, he's literally Santa's sleigh. Like he obviously is dead. Like he just killed himself. He went off a cliff basically, but in his head, he's like, "This is it. I'm Santa Claus," and he's just going to fly away.
Right.
No, he committed the right amount of murders to gain Santa Claus powers. He really flew away.
Enough sacrifices were made to the Yuletide.
It turns out 4 people are enough to become Santa. But yeah, into the movie, and I was gonna get to that, Jeff. It's time for a return of your favorite segment, Snow You Didn't.
Oh boy.
Snow You Didn't. Did Harry live or die at the end of the movie?
I mean, he has to be dead. I was wondering if he was even alive after he crashed on the street, honestly, when the mob comes out to follow him.
Yeah, it is very surreal. Like, and that's the thing.
He's definitely dead.
you can they talk about like your car can get stuck in the snow, and like you can be revving your tires, and like the carbon monoxide seeps into your vehicle.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, that could have been the moment he died, but certainly I agree. I think he's dead at the end. I think what Harry is imagining him like it's the last firing synapses of his brain, and like he's imagining his sleigh flying off into the towards the moon, but in reality, his brother just watched him drive into a lake and drown himself. So yeah, let's get into the kind of the rest of our synopsis. Let's get into the rest of our minutia. Mike, you're the guest. What do you want to start off with? What do you want to talk about?
I mean, I'd like to honestly, the thing I love about this movie so much is it's not really a slasher flick, and like honestly, I mean, it's definitely a character piece. But I really, the more I watch the movie, the more I think he never actually set out to kill anybody. It almost seems like the scene when he goes to the church, it seems so frantic, and like I think that he just is like overloaded, doesn't know what to do, and then he just kind of spazzes out and then stabs that person, just fucking panics. Because like when he kills his coworker, even that scene, it doesn't seem like that was really his intent at first, and he just kind of panics and does something, and then that's what I love about it. He kills someone, and then there's no one-liner, there's no like cool thing. He just fucking runs. He's like, "Oh my God, what have I done?" And he just speeds off, and he's like, "Holy shit, holy shit, holy shit, what did I do?" And then he immediately, after he kills the people at the church, he goes into that Christmas party, and it's just like the fantasy just keeps going. Like it always struck me like the oh, what the hell was the kid's name? There was a horrible real life thing, but the one kid who he shot up his school, he literally went to fucking Subway afterwards. He just sat there and like ate food, and then he was apprehended.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I remember that.
Like shit like that, because I really feel like when people have like a break with reality like that, and this like explosive bout of violence, I think the regret and the remorse start to seep in. They're like, "Oh my God," and it's like I could just go to McDonald's and everything will be normal, and you just pretend that nothing bad is happening. I mean, I've done that, not that I had bouts of violence, but like I've had experiences where like a family member or a friend of mine has died, and I was like, I can't process this right now. I'm just going to pretend everything is fine. I'm just going to go about my day and just be in complete denial. And I really feel like that's when he goes to that Christmas party. Like, I think that his motives were pure. I think he legitimately, as creepy and weird as he is with all of his like watching the kids and shit, I think he truly believes in the innocence of Christmas and the magic of it, and that he just had a traumatic experience and he's just very mentally unwell, and it just gets, the isolation and the obsession just gets worse and worse until it finally explodes, and then he obviously ends up killing himself. But he's a weirdly sympathetic character. Like I really love that about that movie. Like when he goes, like how many movies do you watch where there's a killer Santa and his ultimate goal is to go donate toys to a hospital for mentally challenged children?
Right.
Like he legitimately wants to do good. It just gets really fucked up, and then he's in too deep and he doesn't know what to do.
That's why I kind of struggle with that too, trying to figure out what we were going to put on the naughty list for the villain of the movie, because like I don't really see Harry as a villain, honestly.
Yeah.
No, he's just a guy that he has very poor decision making skills, and things get very bad for him. But I think that it very easily could have played out a very different way, where he still would have broke into people's houses and left them toys and stuff. But like, even with Moss Garcia, the worst he does is leave the bags of dirt, which is just like a warning to be good from Santa. Like, he doesn't want to hurt anybody. I think that he's just a very maladjusted man, and he just needs help, and he does not get it.
Yeah.
Do we want to do our favorite quotes? Christmas Carol's favorite quotes of the movie?
Sure.
If Mike, if you had any, certainly join in. There's that sinister looking Santa poster behind Harriet the Jolly Dream Toy Factory. That if it's not a jolly dream, it's not worth having. I thought that was kind of that was a fun. And you see that a couple other times, like throughout the movie, like it's a couple other places.
It's almost like it's like old World War II propaganda, but it's Santa Claus. I love it.
Yep.
I had when Moss's mom is dragging him out of the house, and he's like, "I want to stay home and watch TV," and she's like, "What do you think you are, your father?"
All right, I also had a Moss Garcia. I wish I had a lifetime subscription to Penthouse magazine.
I mean, I think you guys pretty much covered all of my favorite quotes from the movie. The tune, like, I know how to play, but the Penthouse one is the one that always gets me. I think that's just so hilarious.
I had one other just kind of weird one from the beginning when Harry's first spying on the kids. It's just a weird, like, your kind of introduction to the movie. This man's spying on these children, and he goes, "Come on, where are my little darlings?"
I had when his brother and his wife were talking about, inviting him over for Thanksgiving and everything, and she's like, "Just let Harry have a good time," or whatever. He's like, "But when I think about how lame he is."
That's a really weird line.
All right, let's do Christmas sweater, favorite outfits, set decorations, stuff like that. Certainly, I mentioned the lighting, which ballooned, but like there's something about the lighting in this movie that just looks so cool. Like,
oh yeah,
Mike, as a movie creator yourself, like the lighting in this movie is just fantastic.
The blow mold scene is so fucking gorgeous. Like, that is just fantastic. The set design of his apartment. I mean, I've read that Lewis Jackson was collecting Santa memorabilia for like 20 years or some ridiculous amount of time. Like, there's stuff from every era of that, every type of mythology. Like, that tells a story in itself. Like, that's the best type of set dressing you can have, is you want to tell a character story visually like that, and there's just so much going on, and like the posters in the warehouse, like all of that stuff. It's such a complete movie. Like, I really feel like Lewis Jackson's vision was fully realized in this film, and that's what I love about it so much. Like, this was not just like a not I mean, I love Silent Night, Deadly Night, but so many of the Santa slasher movies, like, it's just like, oh yeah, let's just throw a slasher guy in a Santa costume and that's it. This movie is so thoroughly saturated with the season, and this, everything feels so intentional. You can tell that this was stewing in his brain for 10 years while he constructed it.
No, and it comes out like, it comes out so much better than the first movie we ever did, To All a Good Night, like, where like that it feels rushed and just kind of like secondary to the plot, that like, other than like that the daughter was murdered at Christmas time. Like, this one, like, it is, it is Christmas. Like,
it definitely feels like it's central to the plot, definitely. And I think this feels like the most Christmassy movie we've watched so far, because it's just, you're right, it's just like an afterthought in so many of these that we end up watching.
On the last episode, I know I said George Buza's Storm and Norman is second only to Goldberg, but he's third to Goldberg and Harry Stanley. Like, they are superior Santas to George Buza, but he's only third, which isn't too bad. Then also I had that I loved Harry's PJs.
I always love that Christmas clothing. But no, on the Santa thing, I do agree. I think, honestly, not just because his suit is really good and like the beard and everything fits him really well, but I think just because he's the one who attempts to act the most like Santa out of all these people. Because even, I mean, as cool as the A Christmas Horror Story Santa is, he really doesn't behave all that much like Santa.
No, Harry, like, legitimately, he wants to be Santa Claus. Like, all of his motives align with the mythology of Santa, which, like, that's why it's such a sad story. It's like, this guy really just he believes in magic, and he wants children to preserve the innocence. I mean, something we dealt with in Doomsday a little bit, but it's like the preservation of innocence and the magic of the season, and that the world doesn't let that survive. It erodes it, and it's Moss Garcia is a perfect example that he's blighted youth. He's, corrupted, and it's a sad thing.
Yes, it definitely gave me Doomsday vibes, the crushing sense of despair as Harry goes deeper into his like madness and how the world, it's like even if somebody just shown him a little kindness, I think it could have derailed most of this, but he just gets nothing from anybody in his life.
And only does get the reaction when he is Santa. Like
Yeah.
only does get that. It reinforces this whole thing.
Well, like how many stories do you see in the news, like people that snap and go on like a violent spree? Like this story was written 30 years ago. It holds up today. It's like if somebody would have just treated this person like a human being or like recognized the signs like his brother instead of just being an asshole to him, it's like this whole thing could have been prevented.
Right.
So it's very sad.
Do you guys have any other set decorations or outfits you want to shout out?
No, but I do want to shout out that van sleigh again.
No, that's very
God,
cool.
that's so cool. That's like the best like contemporary. It's so good, and it's like a creeper van
Yeah.
on top of it, so it just makes it so much worse. He might as well have just like spray painted school bus on the side of it. Like it's so creepy. I love it.
Free candy.
There's also what in the Santa lineup. There's just a really tall Santa,
Yeah.
and like I don't know why like that just like I mentioned earlier like there's a super like old guy Santa like I love just the Santa lineup. I think that's a real kind of fun, like not only like that all the outfits are different, unlike Silent Night Deadly Night where
It's the
all
same
the
suit
all
over
it's
and
the
over
same
again.
suit the entire movie. Like all the suits are different and they're all like misfitting and like they're all different. I like that a lot. Let's do broken bulb, brilliant bulb. One thing you want to fix, that would be your broken bulb, and then like one thing you want to praise. We kind of feel like sometimes when we do these, we all we do is talk negative, so we want a reason to kind of talk positive about the movie, and then the inverse. Sometimes all we do is praise a movie, and maybe there's something they could have done. Jeff, do you want to go first for broken bulb?
The main thing I think is wrong with this movie is not enough people know about it, honestly.
No.
I mean, it's pretty much perfect the way it is. I can't think of anything I would change really. Yeah.
Mike?
Yeah, I absolutely adore this. It's my favorite Christmas horror movie of all time. I force everyone in my life to watch this movie at least once. The only thing that I would change, like, I mean, I love the performance. I love everything about it. I just wish that the violence was just a slight bit more graphic, just to juxtapose against everything. It's so uncomfortable. Like when after he slits the guy's throat and this runs out of his house, like just that whole sequence where he's breaking into the house, he tries to get in the chimney. It's absolutely terrifying because he's just a guy. He's not like a cool slasher villain. He is just a dude. And I think that if they would have amped up like the level of violence just a little bit, it really would have driven it home even more. Or also the other thing is I wish that the ending got even a little bit more surreal, like some of the imagery as he starts to unhinge more and more. I'd love to see just a little bit more of that. But I mean, that's like perfect world stuff. And I think the movie is pretty much perfect for what it is.
No, I agree. Certainly, like the gore, like we get a Lucio Fulci zombie / Unshian Andalou, like with the eye gouge, and like that's it really for violence. But yeah, broken bulb for me. It's the same thing you guys have said. This movie languished in obscurity for like 30 some years. It deserved better. Certainly, like the trailer like made it seem like it was going to be a slasher, and people hated it because of that, because that wasn't what it was. And like, no, it's more of a, it's something different than that. And the broken bulb is go back and fix the trailer, like make the movie reflect what it actually was.
Yeah.
Brilliant bulb. One thing you want to praise. I mean, there's, you could praise everything.
Yeah. I mean, there's a million things to praise about it, but just honestly, I just wanted to praise the director's commitment to making this happen. It's like, I can't even think how much willpower it must take to be driving towards a goal of making a movie like this over like basically, I mean, 20 years to collect all the stuff in it, plus 10 years actively trying to get it made. Just like, it's a level of commitment I don't know if I could stick with or not, honestly.
I couldn't.
After so many disappointments, I'd probably just be like, well, I guess it wasn't meant to be.
Yeah, it's making a film is scaling a mountain, and I mean it's a miracle that any movie gets made. But something like this, the story is so crazy and so inspiring to me. My favorite thing about the movie is Brandon Margaret's performance. Like it's a movie where I'll say I think this is a better movie than Taxi Driver. Honestly, I really do. And better than Joker, just because it feels so much more like as whacked out as it is. It feels more real to me, and I feel like his performance. I watched this movie, and I feel like he's gonna do something different every time because he's just so fucking strange. Like the way that he acts and stuff, it genuinely feels like he is someone who's mentally unstable. It doesn't feel like someone acting like movie crazy. He actually feels like someone who is just completely just slipping in and out of reality. Because his performance doesn't make, like, as a director, I couldn't direct that performance. He just does stuff, and it's just so
Right.
fucking nuts. But it's not like crazy, like comb your hair with chicken stuff. It's like it's subtle, and it's just I don't know. It's just a brilliant performance. It's just absolutely brilliant performance.
I had, I had the from the moment Harry calls Phil in the office of the Jolly Dream Toy Factory to the end of the movie. That like 20 minutes is I think just like some of the most interesting, like the is the coolest part of that whole movie, from him calling Phil to driving to the blow mold neighborhood and the encounter with the kids and the mob, and all the way through till the end of the movie. I just think that is the that is the thing I want to shout out. It's so awesome. It is so cool. The lighting is amazing. That just everything about the just that, like I said, that last 20 minutes is pretty damn near perfect. Like it's so amazing. I love that last bit so much. As I said, when I watched it on that YouTube cut, like, and it looked terrible, like that was the one scene that I could truly tell what was going on in, like, and like, so when we watched it again, I was looking forward to that scene again, like that, like, because I was like, oh, here's where the part that I really remember comes up, because it's the only thing I could see on the TV other than Harry's mom's box getting munched. So let's do Christmas spirit. How Christmassy was the movie, and how Christmassy were the kills?
I mean, it's got to be what, max level on both.
100%. I literally wrote kills 100%. Movie itself 100%.
Absolutely, 100%. Can't. It's so thoroughly saturated in Christmas.
Killer Santa. So one, right there. He kills people with toys. He kills people with his sack. he drives his sleigh car off a bridge. He slits a dude's throat with the star off the top of the tree. Like,
well, it's also, like I said, about the different mythologies and stuff of Santa. All of that is represented, like him doing the mud on his face and all that. Like it goes so much deeper than just a aesthetic choice like most Christmas slashers would. It's, you can tell that like they understand the history of this character and stuff. It's crazy.
Maybe the only movie that, like, as I've said before, like sometimes there's things where it's like you feel like Christmas just kind of like threw up over a whole thing. Like, it's just so Christmassy that there's Christmas everywhere. And the two movies I can think of that are probably on this level, one we've talked about countless times, Letters to Satan Claus. Like, that movie, every scene was Christmas, like, because it was a Hallmark spoof. And then the other one was is Black Christmas 2006. Like, that movie, there's Christmas stuff in like every scene, and those are the two that are on the same level of Christmassy for me.
I mean, just in terms of the actual set decorations, the Santa lore that's displayed, and just the plot of a mentally ill man becoming Santa Claus, I think we can't have said. I mean, honestly, I don't think we'll ever watch anything more Christmassy than this.
No.
So yeah, we'll do our final rating. We rate our movies on one of three categories. Are they ho 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 hilarious? Are they seasonally scary? Or are they you'll be sorry? Mike, do you want to kick us off?
What's the best of those three?
I mean, ho 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 hilarious could either be the movie's really silly, or that the movie is or is so bad that it's silly. You'll be sorry is the worst. Seasonally scary, I think, is kind of our code for being the best movie.
I would say seasonally scary then, for sure.
Seasonally scary for me too. I mean, just honestly, it's disturbing. Like I said, after I was thinking about this on my drive home, because I got to drive like 45 minutes home from here, and it's just like contemplating it on the way home. I'm like, so this must be what it feels like to be insane.
Yeah.
Same. Seasonally scary. It's weird. Like, it's a weird movie. It's a strange movie, but it's so creepy and so good that, like, it unsettling. Like, you know, we've called that out on a couple other movies. Like, it's so unsettling, and like, you know, White Doomsday being one of those movies. You're so weirded out by like what Harry's doing, and like so confused by like what he's going through, and like, you know, so it's not like, it's not jump scare, it's not, you know, it's not like all these other things. It's just, it's unsettling. It's so strange.
White Doomsday and The Leech, I think, are like top tier psychological horror we've watched so far.
Yeah, and this is right there with those two.
Thank you.
Mike, have you seen The Leech?
I have not.
Oh, it's so good.
You gotta check
You
it
gotta
out.
check it out.
That's my list. I think the fact that the movie is not like a traditional horror movie, I think that's why people don't like it, because a lot of people I recommended to, when it kind of got its resurgence when it was on Shudder and Joe Bob, a lot of people were like, dude, this movie sucks, I didn't even finish it. And I'm like, you have to see it through, but you also have to understand what you're watching before you go into it. It's not a slasher movie. Like, it is a psychological drama that has horror elements in it, but like, it's really not like a normal horror flick. And I think people are like disappointed by that, but it's like, no, it's not like Silent Night, Deadly Night, which is amazing in its own right, but it's a very different animal.
Mm-hmm.
We'll move on to the naughty list, where we decide what the villain is, because we're kind of gonna do that, and then we rank them based off of how naughty we think they are versus the other naughty things we've had. The most naughty being the apocalypse in I'm Dreaming of a White Doomsday, and the least naughty being Terrence Shade and Barricade.
Yeah,
because that guy was just a bad dad. So I guess first things first, who do we think the bad guy is? Who do we like? Is the bad guy Society? Is the bad guy Harry Stanling?
That's what I put, Society.
I think it's Society. I think it's the CEO and the assistant of the toy factory, because they know how to play the tune, but they don't know how to dance to it.
Yeah, they push him over the edge for sure.
Yeah.
And so if it is Society, I mean, Society's pretty big. Is Society more or less powerful than the children? From the children?
No, I don't know. Well, they only destroyed Britain, so that's not much of an accomplishment, really.
Fine, Harry just killed 4 people in New Jersey. Like,
yes, I know, but the implications will just scar New Jersey Christmas forever.
True. I mean, imagine the next year at Christmas. Truly, I mean, as much as people hated hated Halloween Kills, like, you know, Michael Myers put like basically like cast a shadow over like that opening scene where like you're going through the things like that happened in Haddonfield after like they thought they killed Michael or whatever. Like, you know, and you get Corey, the kid falling off the fucking top of the house, and then you get like all the other weird shit. Like, you know, Michael like put, you know, that next year Christmas in that town would be a somber, like, you know, dark kind of like hushed tones. Like, I think even one of the police officers says like he's going to make kids afraid of Santa again. Like, and like kind of like proud. Like, he's like, these kids have had it too easy. They need to learn that Santa can be mean.
Yeah, well, I look to think that there's a world where Harry's nephews are now traumatized as hell, and much like Ricky in Silent Night, Deadly Night, they will pick up the mantle and.
Oh, that would be amazing.
Oh, that'd be so good. And then one of them would say, "Our favorite line."
Garbage day.
Well, if we've decided on Society, speaking of garbage day, we'll forego cleaning out our email inbox and making Jeff eat some shitty food, and instead we'll ask Mike some questions that people sent in, and we wrote ourselves for a segment we like to call
Garbage Day. Huh? No.
Yeah, we got a couple questions here for you, Mike. Jeff, do you want to start the first one?
Yes. So what was the most challenging aspect of adopting the short story version of I'm Dreaming of White Doomsday into a film?
Probably making the movie.
Yeah.
It was hard because when I wrote the short story, it was never intended. I never thought I'd be able to make a movie out of it. It was like a post-apocalyptic Christmas movie on the $10,000 budget is insanity, and I would not recommend anyone try to do it. So when I was trying to adapt it, I was like, how the hell am I going to make this with no money, just because of the scope of it? So that was tough, but as the years go on, the most difficult thing for me, like looking back on it, was trying to make the motives of Santa clear without like, but having him as a non-speaking character. Because in the short story, parts of the story take place from the point of view of Santa, so you kind of get some backstory and you understand better. So one of the complaints people have about the movie sometimes is that they don't understand like what's going on, like why Santa dies at the end and everything. But it was tough to show that visually without him being able to talk. He's wearing a gas mask. So that was something that I really struggled with when we were making the movie, outside of just the normal making an indie film and how ludicrously difficult it is to do anything with independent filmmaking, especially when you're filming entirely in abandoned locations that have no power and you're trespassing in the snow like 5 miles from civilization with a whole crew and camera gear. But you know, that's all right.
That's one of the lines I remember most from the short story, is one of those passages from the perspective of Santa, where he's like, and he felt a sudden jolt of energy. It's like, he's close, so close. I'm like, but what does he want to do with it?
He feels because Santa exists solely from the belief of children.
Yeah,
So
and he
no one left
kills
to
the
believe.
last kid.
Yeah, he disintegrates.
Just let me die.
How do people not get that? It's so obvious
I
that
know,
that's what
that's-
happens in the movie.
That's what
Some people, I've had some really good conversations with people at film festivals especially, and like they have some pretty wild theories as to what's going on. My biggest regret of all the stuff that we did in that movie is when the weed killer that the mom uses to poison her kid is bright green. That's what weed killer looks like.
Mhm.
When we did Santa disintegrating and his breath coming out, I have a fetish for like green fog and green lights and stuff. So for the record too, I want to state that the green fog that comes out of his mouth was not CGI. Someone wrote a review and like, that CGI smoke looked horrible. That was a practical effect. We spent like 3 hours like using barn doors to slim down like just a sliver of green light with a gel, and then had him blow vape smoke at just the right angle.
Oh,
I was in camera, so that bothers me that somebody thought that was CGI.
that's
But
insane.
having that green, and then when his head disintegrates, the embers glow green because Christmas. I didn't even think, because I'm stupid, that the green is the same color green as the weed killer. So people assume that it's weed killer in his head, or that he died because of the weed killer. And I'm like, nope, that was just
Yeah.
weird visual motif I always use in my movies, and I didn't think it through. So it's confused. So that adds to the confusion.
Well, see, at first I thought when he did that, I thought maybe it was like radiation poisoning.
Yeah, that's another
Breathing out
common.
radiation, but then I was like, well, no, that doesn't really make any sense, because this is clearly a magical Santa, so it must just be like his life force or whatever.
Yeah, his life force is he's cracking apart and stuff. And the original makeup design for him was a lot more detailed, but then it got messed up on set. We didn't have time to redo it, so I'm like, just fuck it, we gotta go. Because he was crumbling, like pieces were falling off of him and stuff.
Okay.
It's a lot more complex, but you know.
And funding for Doomsday, like you Indiegogo'd, right? Like that was
Oh no, I paycheck from the pizza shop.
okay.
Oh wow.
Because
We filmed the movie over the course of 3 years, and it was pretty much whenever I got paid, I would buy props. And like much like Lewis Jackson, I was scouring for like 2 years trying to find. It was actually funny. I got to go with my mom to like. She loves going to like thrift stores and antique malls, so we would just every weekend we just go out and try to find vintage Christmas decorations. And I very much wanted the movie to take place in like 1996.
okay.
So all the decorations, everything was stuff that I grew up with as a kid. All the toys, everything is completely accurate, period, even though it's never stated, so nobody would ever really know. But for me personally, that's what I wanted in the movie. So that's kind
that
of
actually makes like
I was
perfect
gonna
sense.
say, I actually had a feeling that it was supposed to be set in the 90s, because that picture scene reminded me of a flashback of my own childhood taking family pictures.
that was completely real life when we did that. And then I accidentally ripped off the Goosebumps cover, Say Cheese and Die, which was not intentional at all. And then someone pointed out afterwards, and I'm like, oh my God, that's awesome. Because
Go ahead. Sorry.
in the short story, she is in the portrait studio, and then she, it morphs in dream logic, it morphs into the bomb shelter again, and she looks and she sees that her husband and son are skeletons.
Mm-hmm.
So that works really well on the page, but then when it came to the logistics of trying to shoot that and morph the set, I'm like, this doesn't really make sense. And I was like, why don't I just push the photo studio like idea more, and then I can have like a cool like scare, because the wounded girl is the photographer, so she kind of changes, and then it's just like, oh look, it's like the fucked up version. All of her guilt is manifesting in this little area. So I was like, yeah, I'll just have a photograph, like a Christmas card. Like, this will be perfect. Not realizing that it's literally like the Polaroid on the cover of Say Cheese and Dies, a skeleton family having a barbecue. And I was like, oh, fuck yeah. And then I tried to hire Tim Jacobus to do the poster art, but he was out of my price range, but super cool dude. But I sent him that scene and he's like, that is so cool. And I'm like, yeah, sorry, I ripped you off, dude.
So two things. One, I think that was the moment my wife has only seen your movie once, and that was the moment where like she walked away. Like my wife has a much stronger stomach than I do, except when it comes to kids getting hurt, and just the whole time she's just dreading the child dying. And like she just got up and walked away at that scene, and she's never finished the movie.
It's probably for the best.
But the only reason I asked about the funding was like your and my mutual friend Dean Window. Like he was what turned me on to this movie. Like I messaged him. I was like, he posted a picture and it had like the poster for your movie in it. And I like messaged him. I was like, Dean, what is this movie? Like, and like he's like, oh, you need to check it out. And he sent me the link to Scream Team Releasing's website. And so that like, so I just figured like, oh, Dean must have been a part of like funding this or something. That was just my thought. I had no.
Oh yeah, I met him. I met him and his family at Scares the Care, the weekend charity event, and I did the film. I used to do the film festival there. That's how we met, and he got the movie. He's been a huge supporter of it, which I appreciate so much. But we actually ran out of money several times. But Brian Keene, the horror author, he came on board as an executive producer to help out. And then Jay Sorensen, who is a good friend of mine that I met many years ago online, she's a huge champion for indie film, and she literally just sent me a nice chunk of money to help finish the movie. And she's like, I've been following your career forever. Like, I love what you do. I want to help you. And she literally saved the movie because we had no money left.
That's amazing.
Wow.
Yeah. What do you have another question?
Well, relating to money, if money was no object, what kind of project would you want to work on?
Like unrelated to Doomsday?
Yeah.
So unless your answer wants to be like,
unless you want to remake I'm Dreaming of White Doomsday.
Well, the thing is, I wouldn't know what to do with more money on that movie. It would be the same movie. It would just look prettier. I have another feature that I want to do called Masterwork that I've been toying around with the script for probably 15 years, much like Lewis Jackson. And that is about an independent filmmaker who is struggling with what he wants to do with his life. And he has his dream project, his masterwork. And he has to work a normal job to pay his bills. And then kind of the experience of him coming to terms with the fact that art is a horrible way to live. So his life starts to fall apart as he decides to quit his job and pursue his dream of making this movie. And it just ruins his life, alienates everyone that he cares about, and things go very bad. There's also some apocalyptic shenanigans in there at some point too. All sorts of crazy shit. But it is, like I always tell people, like with writing, you want to bleed on the page. And Doomsday was an insanely personal project for me. But Masterwork is me hitting an artery. Like, it is so painfully personal, which is probably why I haven't made it yet. But I will eventually probably crowdfund for that. But that is like the next huge project I want to do. And that is my ultimate dream project. If I never make another movie again, I want it to be that one.
I'll count us in, and we'll certainly have you back on to promote it and everything.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, you can come on whenever you feel like it. Just send us.
I would love to be back. There's nothing I love more than talking about Christmas horror movies.
What was the first scary movie / TV show / book that kind of gave you nightmares / impacted you?
Man, I grew up with, they can't see this on the screen, but Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. I have my whole forearm is tattooed to the cover of Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. I was obsessed. I used to carry it around with me at school to the point where it fell apart. Tales from the Crypt, Goosebumps was a huge one. Like all the early, like late 80s, early 90s scary story books. Like I said, Tales from the Crypt. Movies like Chud was an obsession of mine as a kid, still is. Aliens. I never really had like a lot of nightmares. I was kind of always obsessed with horror, even at a very young age. But I was always like fascinated by like special effects and props and like how they make all this stuff. So it never really scared me because I knew that it was fake and I just wanted to learn how to do it. But all those obsessions that I had, I mean, they're pretty much the same. I still love the same shit. I mean, I grew up like playing like Castlevania for NES and stuff like that, like old horror video games. So, just all that kind of shit.
So my three, I mean, as you mentioned, Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. One of my three is Harold, the
Oh
scarecrow.
God, that story legitimately still scares the shit out of me to this day.
Yep. And then the plumber, Zeke the plumber from the Halloween episode of Salute Your Shorts.
I have a T-shirt from Fright Rags of that's done like a slasher movie. Fucking brilliant episode.
And then Large Marge, R.I.P. Paul Rubens.
Yep,
those are my three. Like that, I can't pinpoint which one was first. Those are the three that stick in my memory from like early scary things.
Oh, Ernest Scared Stupid is another huge one.
Oh, that's one too. Yeah,
that was another big one for me.
Okay, so a little bit of background to set this first one up. My dad loves movies, watches all different kinds of movies, but unlike Jay, has never really cared what his children see or when. And so I saw Nightmare on Elm Street when I was 7.
Oh
I
boy.
think. And so I don't remember doing this, but according to my parents, I pissed all over the couch that night.
Understandable.
I actually pissed myself. I think it was Poltergeist 3, the scene when she gets pulled under the water in the puddle in the parking garage. That scared me so badly. I think I pissed myself that night.
The one I remember clearly was when I was 10, my dad rented The Grudge for my sister and I to watch. And then I had nightmares about that for a few weeks.
I mean, I still think about that scene in the hallway where the security camera, like it cuts to the security footage and you watch the shadow grow outside of Buffy's apartment.
Yeah,
like
for me, it was the hands coming out of the back of her head in the shower.
Yeah. Oh, also, speaking of age inappropriate movies, and you saying that it was 7. My buddy PJ told me at 8 he saw Halloween, and that was a very similar reaction. Like he was terrified, and I was like, well, I mean, I was 12 and my dad had me watch Silence of the Lambs, and he was like, Jesus Christ, no wonder you're fucked up, Jay. Like, oh, thanks buddy.
When I was a kid, my cousin slept over, and we went to the video store to rent. My little brother wanted to see E.T. So she went into the store, and I'll never forget this. I was sitting out in the car. I was probably about 8 or 9, and she went in to rent E.T., and she was gone for like 20 minutes. She finally comes out with a movie called Alien.
Oh,
it was just the clamshell box, didn't have the cover, and it was in the staff recommendations, and because ET was rented out, and she saw it was just a green egg. That was all that was on. She didn't know what it was. She just picked it up, like, whatever. That changed my life. That chest burster scene. I remember I was probably 6 inches from that TV. Like I was hypnotized. I was like, oh my God, what is this?
Do you have another question, Jeff?
Yes, I do. Okay, so I know with Please Don't Tap on the Glass being a success, do you have any other writing projects you're planning on doing? I know in the foreword to that, you were talking about how it's basically painful for you to write stories. So I wasn't sure if you planned on writing any more right now or what was going on with that.
Yeah, so Please Don't Tap on the Glass is my short story collection that turned into like half memoir. But White Doomsday is in there for anyone who wants to read it. I do have some more. I'm planning another collection. It's going to tentatively be called Side Pieces. It's going to be a short collection of extreme and gross out horror, like just really hardcore stuff. I finished the first story. It's called Carnival Night, which I've gotten some pre-reader feedback on a few weeks ago. And my favorite two were someone said, this is like What's Eating Gilbert Grape if it was directed by Alexandre Aja, which made me very happy. And then someone else said, this is The Hills Have Eyes meets Malcolm in the Middle. Cracked me the hell up. And I was like, that's actually the perfect description of it, because it's very
hold on,
but also very sad, which is kind of my jam.
So that sounds amazing.
I have that is the centerpiece of the book, and I've got a couple other stories that I want to write for that. And then I would like to do another full-length collection. I was just approached about doing a novella for another publisher, so I may be working on something along that. I don't want to get too much into that because I still am formulating the idea, but it does involve homeless people, and it's going to be pretty disturbing.
Excellent.
I only have one more question. I think Jeff, maybe do you have a couple more?
Yeah, I've got a couple more.
Okay, do you want to do yours?
As someone who's actually made a movie, which we will probably never do, uh, um, why do you think horror works so well with so many genres?
I mean, with horror, what I think is great about it is there are no rules. Like you can break reality. You can do experimental. You can do serious. You can do funny. Like you can make a romantic comedy. You can do whatever the hell you want and mix horror with it. So it's just like the perfect backdrop to any emotion. Because I mean, really, you're dealing with the most extreme of human emotions, the full range of it, and you can really just do whatever the hell you want. That's what I love about horror is it's unlimited creativity. You can literally do whatever the hell you want. If you want a fucking monster to burst out of somebody's head, or you want to have fucking giant earthworms, like whatever, like there's no rules. You can set your own universe and you can do whatever the hell you want. And I think that horror is the most malleable of all the genres too, because you can have something that's like a dead serious drama with just little elements of horror in it, or you can go like full blown. Like I think that there's just so much room to do whatever you want with it, and that's what I love about it. I mean, there's a billion subgenres for a reason. Like it's great.
Yeah, I mean, you could do something really unhinged, like have a Santa in a gas mask strangle the last child on earth.
I mean, if you want to get a lot of hate mail, go for it. But
Did one of the ones I just remembered one Jeff and I had talked about. Do you want to do like your top 5 favorite Christmas horror movies?
oh, I sure do. Number one, Christmas Evil, hands down, Christmas Evil. After that, that's tough. Silent Night, Deadly Night is probably number two, I would say. I don't know what number three would be. Oh, I'm stupid. Number two is Day of the Beast. How can I forget that?
Okay.
I'm not sure if you guys are familiar. It's a movie about the priest who uncodes. He basically cracks the Bible code and finds out that it's actually a date that the Antichrist is going to be born on Christmas Eve, and he needs to find out where. So
It's Spanish language, right?
yes. Yeah, so the only way that he can find that out is that he has to gain the trust of the devil. So he then goes on a sin spree to try to win the favor of the devil. Fucking hilarious.
That sounds amazing.
Hilarious movie, just super batshit crazy. Absolutely great Christmas movie. Love it to death. Then I would say Silent Night, Deadly Night. After that, ooh.
I mean, if you don't say Gremlins and Black Christmas, I mean,
I do. I mean, I do love Black Christmas. I do love Gremlins. It's just hard to find like a hierarchy after that because they're kind of all on level playing field after that for me. Honestly, I also love just traditional Christmas movies. Like Jingle All the Way, I think is probably one of the best Christmas movies of all time.
okay.
Like up there with Home Alone. I mean, Better Watch Out is another great Christmas horror movie.
It is.
That's great stuff. There's just so much out there. The sequels to Silent Night, Deadly Night. I mean, I love them for various dumb reasons. Like
right.
there's a lot of good stuff out there.
All right, let's just all agree that one of those that Mike said was Puppet Master versus Demonic Toys.
I still haven't seen it. I'm obsessed with Demonic Toys.
Last I saw it was on Tubi.
Yeah, is it? Okay, good. I've been trying to track down I don't think it ever got a DVD release. That it was only Sci-Fi Channel premiered it.
I have a DVD of it. I don't know if it's legal, but I have a DVD copy of it.
I'll have to look it up because that's the only one I haven't seen. I just watched Demonic Toys 2, which was horrendous. So, and I have the Baby Oopsie spinoffs. I didn't watch them yet, but I remember seeing bits and pieces. I saw a little bit of Demonic Toys versus Puppet Master. I love Puppet Master as well. And I remember seeing Corey Feldman, and I was like, this is so fucking abysmal.
It's so strange. All right, Jeff, do you have any final ones?
Well, I just have the most pressing question, I think, of the entire process here. So I follow you on Facebook, Mike, and I see what you post. And I got to know, how many women do you keep locked in your basement, and what do you feed them?
So first off, a gentleman never asks and a lady never tells. So we'll just put that out there. But since you guys invited me here, I don't have a basement per se. I live in a split level, so that's actually my living room. I tend to keep them in the crawl space.
Okay.
It's spacious. I mean, it's usually about like 68 to 70 degrees down there, so it's not like horrible. It is dirt floor, which is a little uncomfortable, but you know, they're fine.
Yeah.
But you know, really table scraps, whatever I had when I worked at the pizza shop, it was I'd bring home, you know, if they behave themselves, I'd, you know, throw them some whatever was left over at the shop. It actually reminds me, I haven't fed them in a couple days. Shit. Well, that's the problem for later. I haven't smelled anything yet, so I think we're good.
And I guess a final question. Dedicated listeners of this show already know this, but Damian Maffei, is that how you pronounce his name?
Maffei, yes.
Is also in Strangers Pray at Night. Did you know that I can't make it past the first 20 minutes of the original Strangers, so I've never seen Strangers Pray at Night?
Strangers Pray at Night is a very different movie. It's much more of I don't want to say like a retro slasher, but it's got a great synth soundtrack and it feels very different. The first one is a very like slow, brooding movie. The second one is definitely a lot more...
and that doll-faced girl shows up, and I stop watching the movie. I'm like, I can't do it. Like it's so
the second one is much more action oriented. But I definitely recommend it. I loved it. I was not expecting to enjoy it as much as I did. I was very big on it. It was very cool.
Okay, maybe I'll give it a try. I also don't want to see Glenn Howerton die, so that's the other reason I can't watch The Strangers. So yeah, unless we have any other questions,
No, that's all I had.
Mike, anything you want to plug?
Yeah, so I'm Dreaming of a White Doomsday, my post-apocalyptic Christmas movie, which is best described as The Road Meets Miracle on 34th Street. You can pick that up at screamteamreleasing.com. You can get it directly from them. It's also available on Amazon, but I will be selfish and ask you to buy directly from the distributor because I actually get paid that way, so I can make more movies. It's also streaming on Tubi, Screambox, and a whole host of other ones. I mean, the DVDs and the Blu-rays are available all over the place, but definitely check it out. It's got commentary tracks, a feature-length documentary called Armageddon from the Cheap Seats. If you want to see literal day-by-day how we made a feature-length film in the apocalypse for $10,000.
I think we did watch that.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's better than the movie. So
I don't know about that.
But definitely check that out. And then my debut short story collection, Please Don't Tap on the Glass, and Other Tales of the Melancholy and Grotesque. That is available on Amazon in paperback and ebook. And if you were lucky enough to get one of the 52 limited edition hardback copies that Thunderstorm Books put out that were outrageously expensive, congratulations, but they're sold out in 6 minutes.
I know. I was so bummed that I missed out. I already have a signed copy where you say this is your favorite Christmas horror podcast. Granted, we're pretty much the only one.
But there is going to be probably reissuing the paperback again with some bonus content sometime down the line. But definitely check that out. It's a mix of extreme horror, existential dread. It's very dark. It's kind of funny. It's just a weird thing. There's also story notes at the end, so it's kind of like a little mini autobiography in addition to some whacked out stories. But I'm Dreaming of a White Doomsday. The original story is in there if you are curious and want to yell at the internet and say the book was better. I highly would recommend it. I also have signed copies available if you go on my Facebook page or email me and I can sell you one direct.
All right. And people can get in touch with us if they want to send any emails to horrorfortheholidays@gmail.com. Be a part of our Garbage Day segment. Save Jeff from having to drink a caramel apple flavored energy drink that I found at Dollar Tree.
Please, God.
We could be found on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, Threads. I'm still trying to get Blue Sky figured out. Also it's not Twitter, it's X now. Or you can follow us there at horror4holidays. You can follow Mike on Twitter at Real Splatter, REEL, not REAL. You can follow us on YouTube at Horror for the Holidays. Give us a subscribe, all that stuff.
5-star rate us on all the podcast apps. Say Jeff and Jay too fat. Mike should kill them and take the podcast.
He probably should. I mean, certainly if anyone should, I mean, Mike and like Matthew Dupay should certainly take over the podcast. We don't deserve to do this.
Hostile takeover.
Yeah, give us 5 stars. Rate, review, subscribe. Tell a friend. Tell a friend. that you enjoyed this podcast. Maybe this episode more than others, because Mike is clearly smarter and more talented than we are.
I'm going to tank your viewership being on here. I'm sorry, guys.
I mean, it can't get worse than 8 on our year anniversary, where we were really happy.
Oh yeah, but Christmas Twister, that was the most successful episode.
But, fucking Casper Van Dien was doing his part, and we joked about that forever. But yeah, other than that, unless anyone else has anything else to say,
just before Mike goes, I want him to know that on my top 5 Christmas horror movies, I'm Dreaming of White Doomsday is number 4.
Well, thank
there
you.
you go. High praise. I actually didn't rank mine, so I don't have a list to give, but let's just assume it's on there somewhere.
Typical Jay.
All I was hoping for when we made the movie was that everybody would blindly love it and celebrate me as a god of filmmaking. But outside of that, I'll take number 4 too. That's great.
I mean, certainly Black Christmas is number 1. I mean, we're not going to do this now. We'll next time Mike comes on, when we do Day of the Beast, we'll I'll give everybody my top 5 rating then.
I can talk for hours about Day of the Beast. Also, you should look into getting Damien. He is probably the world's biggest Black Christmas fan. He is obsessed.
All right. Well, we'll try to do that. We'll see if we can get that figured out, and maybe we'll have our shit together better, so there's not just an abrupt stop in the middle of the episode. Yeah, thanks for listening. We'll see everyone again in 2 weeks.
And thanks for coming on, Mike.
Thank you, Mike.
Thanks for having me. It was a blast.
Bye. All right, we'll stop recording.